pull this out of our ass, John.
Sounds good.
All right. Okay. Welcome to the podcast. We're pleased to have a guest with us today. John Janecek is a strength coach from Longview High School. And John and I have known each other for several years now, having run into each other at Olympic weightlifting meets in the state of Texas. Believe it or not, I've been to an Olympic weightlifting meet.
Several. Yeah.
He's seen me.
Yeah.
He's seen me. I do know something about this.
He's coached me.
In fact,
yeah,
a little bit.
Fixed a few things.
Anyway, John is an important guy in our business, and he posts on the board all the time, and those of you that read the board on a regular basis understand the value of his contributions. He is one of about 3 high school strength and conditioning coaches in the entire world that actually know what the hell he's doing. And yes, the rest of you, I'm talking to you. Okay? And we're going to talk to John a little bit, and we're going to see if we can teach you a couple of things. John, thanks for being with us today.
Glad to be here.
How are you different? And I know you're different. What's different about what you do than the standard practice? Let's do this. Let's talk about what is the standard training protocol for high school athletes in weight rooms across the country, and what do you do that's not that way?
Well, I think the biggest problem is conditioning. I said you've got a lot of football coaches that run the strength program, and the idea of let's run them into the ground, make them strong for the fourth quarter, make them tough, make them so they don't quit, do all this stuff is just a bunch of high rep, make them sweaty, run them till they drop, run them till they puke.
It's a complete misunderstanding of the situation. Football practice makes them conditioned.
Right.
Strength makes them strong for the fourth quarter.
Right.
Not conditioning.
Right.
And listen to what we're telling you. Okay? If your kids get strong from the strength program under the bar, the fourth quarter is easier than if you assume that running makes them strong for the fourth quarter, because it does not. And, I know what goes on. I know what goes on in weight rooms across the country. What has been your experience with your fellow coaches, both in your school and in the schools that you're in contact with?
I think the biggest thing is it's that misconception of we've got to train them for the fourth quarter, and we've got to get them ready for that by doing all this extra conditioning. And when they break it down and look at it, when I was at the University of Nebraska, Boyd Epley sat down and they took a entire game of football and they took a couple stopwatches. How long the kid played, how long they stopped and rested, how long they played, how long they stopped and rested. And they said, hey, I think we should start training guys this way. We don't condition them. They go 4 to 6 seconds at a time for about 60 times a game. He said in a time of a 3 or 4 hour football game, this guy's worked 3 minutes.
Right.
So he said we're going to start.
5 mile time has really nothing to do with it.
Yeah, we don't do anything that long during that time. And I said these guys, even on a 10-play drive, there's still X amount of time between the plays.
Right.
That they get to recover and refill that fuel tank and come back in. And said we should start training them that way.
It's a series of short anaerobic bursts,
right,
to which strength contributes more than conditioning, even for short anaerobic bursts.
Right. And what I try to tell these other coaches about that is that they'll tell me this, and I'll say, well, what you're training your kid to do is do something at about 70% effort, but a whole bunch of times. Where my kid could do it at 100 or 105% effort for 8 or 10 times, go take a break and come do it again, and go take a break and come do it again for the entire game, where your kid may be able to look decent, but only at about 70%. So I said, I'll take my 110% over your 70%.
Right. My 110% kicks your 70%'s ass.
Right.
And what did that take? A stopwatch?
Yeah.
And a game film.
Yeah. And this is 1990. This is when I came to Texas in 2000 and sat down with my first football staff. I thought, this is Texas 5A football. What am I going to tell these guys? I've been in college strength and conditioning for 10 years. What am I going to tell these guys that they don't already know? This is like
everything.
This is like the professional level of high school football down here.
Right.
And I sat down and
but
listened.
it's not, is it?
And no, and I sat down and listened to some of the stuff these guys do, and they said we can't get strong because we'll have a kid do a set of squats, then he'll do a set of jumps, then he'll do a set of push-ups, then he'll do a set of running in place, and then it says turn to squat again, and we can't figure out why we can't get this kid to squat more. And I'll say, why are you doing all that other stuff? And he said, well, it's extra work for the fourth quarter. And I said, why don't you just have them stand there? And he goes, and do what? And I said, and recover.
Like they do in the fourth quarter.
Exactly. And they all just looked at me. And I actually had
like they do in the fourth quarter.
I actually had a head coach look at his strength coordinator. He looked over and he goes, hey, write this stuff down. So
this is cutting edge Archimedes level shit here.
So right there, I thought I probably was going to be a little bit useful. So,
well, if they'll listen to you,
right?
But what have you learned about high school football coaches in the period of time you've been dealing with?
Well, I've learned that I only go to work for the ones where I sit down and talk to them and say, this is how I'm going to run it. And if they don't want to do it that way, I wouldn't work there.
Right.
So,
in other words, what you've learned is they're not listening.
Right. Yeah. You're not going to change someone. You're not going to change someone's perception of how they've been doing things forever, because this is the way we used to do it when I was there. This is the way we used to do it back in the day. This is the way we used to do it, and so many of them.
That's interesting. Back in the day. Back in what day?
Right. The
day when you all went 5 and 8.
Yeah.
That day.
Or you ran mile times with 200-pound linemen. It's just it's
right.
a whole different game now. And,
right.
And to have kids, my weight room where I'm at, across the hallway is the visiting locker room for every Friday night for our football games.
Mm-hmm.
So we'll have these big, well-known football programs come in, look through the weight room window, knock on the door, and come in, and they'll start asking me questions. So I just leave the door open and I'll talk to them. And again, I still have this mindset in my head that these guys know what they're doing. And they come in and they start telling me, they'll say, what do you do? And I said, we clean, we bench, we squat, we press, we back squat, we front squat. Not much else. And they go, we tried that. It doesn't work. But what we do is this. And then I'll say, they'll see the platforms and they'll say, well, what do you do on the platforms? I'll say, we snatch and we clean and we front squat and we deadlift. And I'll say, as a matter of fact, like I told one team coming in one time, they were on a Friday night, they said, asked what the kids were doing. And I told them, I said, well, we do this on there. And then I said, yeah, as a matter of fact, I just had my first 4 kids do 225 the other day. And one of them goes, well, we have kids who clean 225. And I said, snatch. I said, so they had 5. They said they had 5 kids they were proud of cleaning 225.
Cleaning 225.
I said I got 65 that can do that, and they just looked at me and one of those, and I just couldn't believe it. They said they talked about I've got a couple kids that do 400 on a deadlift. I said I've got 50 kids that can deadlift 400.
400 is not. See, this is what they don't understand.
Yeah.
400 deadlift. If a 400 deadlift, a 405 deadlift to you represents amazing strength, you don't understand. You just don't understand. That's really not even baseline. I'll bet John has got 20 guys on his team deadlifting 500 plus.
At least, yeah.
Right? That's baseline, okay? And we're talking about high school seniors. If your program is not generating 500-pound deadlifts for your high school seniors, you're doing this wrong. You're doing this wrong. And the guys that are doing it right are going to beat you. They're going to beat your ass. And you better get caught up. You better begin to understand the fundamentals of strength and conditioning. Strength is developed by the exercises that require strength. And anything else you add to that during that workout is detrimental to the development of strength. If strength is not the limiting factor in an exercise, then that exercise does not develop strength. So if you have your kids squat and then have them do push-ups and then have them do Fran and then have them run Murph and then, climb the rope 15, 20 times and then come to their second set of squats, they're not going to get strong because you don't understand your job. Okay? John can teach it to you if you'll let him show you. And this is it's amazing to me. This happens. This happens at the college level, at the professional level, and what it boils down to is that you have an entire profession of strength and conditioning people. The entire profession is hiding behind the genetics of the athletes that the recruiter puts in the locker room.
Correct.
Because they don't know their profession.
Right. I think another big thing too is you have any place that I've been, when I walk in, the last thing on my mind is going to the soccer coach or the football coach or the basketball coach.
Mm-hmm.
As soon as I get in and introducing myself to him and saying, "Hey, my name is John Janecek. I'm the new strength coach. By the way, I saw this basketball play on YouTube I think you should use. Or I saw this practice routine on YouTube, or I saw this or that. I think you should try
excellent.
it. I think you should try it because
it might work because it worked on TV.
Yeah, I've got an idea, and I think
know?
you should try it. I have no idea what your experience is, but everywhere I've been, every one of them has come to me like I'm some overwhelmed 19-year-old,
Right.
that's just come there that they just
they
threw
need
in
your advice.
Yeah, and I've
Right.
got programs. I've got the soccer programs coming at me. I've got this is the special baseball program. This is the basketball program, and I'll sit them all down and talk to them, and I say, why I don't have a basketball squad. I don't have a football squad. I don't have a soccer squad. What I can do is make your kids strong when they come in the weight room. And strong is better than weak. I said, do you want strong, fast kids, or do you want weak, slow kids? Well, we want strong, fast kids. Here's how we do it.
A friend of mine sent me an email last week, and I'm not going to tell you who this is because you'll know immediately who it is, and I don't want to get him in trouble. But his women's soccer coach came into his office last week and said, I've been visiting a bunch of high-level soccer programs around the country, and I think that from now on, I don't think we need to do any more Olympic lifting for these girls. And he said, well, what do you mean? He said, well, to begin with, they don't need to be bench pressing. This is a level of understanding.
Right.
And
Well, I can do you. One,
you probably got stories like that, and it's
well, your soccer coach says that. One of my assistant soccer coaches says they said the program's pretty good, but the problem is we have weak ankles. So let me get to that. I said,
I'm getting right on those. We'll get some ankle exercises done. So you've got how many kids in the weight room at any given time?
I could have anywhere from about 60 to 200 in there at a time.
So what do you do? What the hell do you do with 60 kids standing there blinking? What do I do, Coach? What do you tell them? That's a challenge. God,
it's the simplest thing I do all day. I tell the coach, I said, you tell me how many people are going to be in the weight room, tell me how much equipment I have, tell me how much time I have. And I just divide it by time. So I'm going to have the kids come in and we're going to bench press, we're going to clean, and we're going to squat. And we've got 50 minutes where we're going to cut those up into about 15, 16 minutes apiece, and we're going to rotate through them. Get to your top set of whatever I tell you, and then you're done, and we rotate to the next. So let's say I have 80 or 90 football players in there, and I say, all right, we've got an hour to work out. So we're going to start out with snatches, sets of 3, go. That's all they know. They don't. If I told them to do 5 sets of 3, they wouldn't have a clue what I'm talking about.
Right.
The football coaches, when I first got there, said, well, how many sets were you doing? I said, when I say stop. And they just, what does that mean? I said, that means your job is to make them go to a heavy set of 3. And if you haven't heard anything from me yet, they've got 3 choices. They can either do that set of 3 again. If they don't make it, drop down a little bit and get another set of 3. If they made it, let's add 5 pounds and see if we can get another set of 3 before the whistle's blown. I blow the whistle and say, now we're going to clean sets of 3.
And there's time for warm-ups and everything else, right?
Yeah.
Have you heard of high school strength coaches telling their kids to go straight to their work set without warm-ups?
No. Well,
I have.
Yes.
I have.
I mean,
I've
I
heard
don't.
of that.
No. Yes. Yeah.
I've heard of that.
Right.
It happens here in Wichita Falls.
Right.
And
but I mean, no, I don't.
This indicates to me a couple of very profound problems with high school strength and conditioning. First off, these people aren't very bright. Second of all, these people are not bothering to learn what they don't already know. And it's distressing to me. It really is.
If I take a kid through a workout, like we take those football players through a workout that I was just talking about in an hour's time, we start with snatches. We start with the bar. We do sets with the bar. Light. Start with the bar, work light. I've got kids
just normal warm up progression, and we hurry.
And we start and I put them in
groups.
Hey,
maybe that's the conditioning.
Yeah, that's it. And I tell them that I by the way I make the groups, I can kind of monitor. I can control that. So in season, if we have to go faster, we go groups of 3.
Mm-hmm.
We move a little faster because you lift when your rest time is when the other 2 guys are going. Right. Off season, I want them to get stronger and our emphasis on weight, so we put them in groups of 5. It takes longer for you to get to your set, so you stand there and wait a little longer.
Rest.
You get a little more gas in the tank, so you can lift heavier.
Mm-hmm.
At the end, when we test, everyone's happy because we lift a whole bunch of weight and we're bigger and stronger and we can jump higher and run faster.
And everybody on the team through the whole season is progressing because they're training. Right. They're not exercising in the weight room.
Right.
And this is it's interesting to me that it is 2016 and we don't know any more about this than we did in 1966. And it's I'm going to lay the blame squarely on the backs of you guys in high school weight rooms across the country. This is your fault, and you need to get it fixed. Okay? We'll be glad to help you here. John will be glad to help you. But you guys have got to stop doing this. You're committing malpractice. You're not helping your kids, and you're not helping yourselves either. Okay? John, I appreciate you being here. Yeah. John's at Longview High School. He'll be glad to talk to you if you'll get a hold of him there. You got an email address you like to use?
J Janecek at lisd.org.
Just Janacek, just like it sounds.
I don't know why you'd spell it wrong.
Oh, God, no. That's a Czech name, isn't it? Czechoslovakian?
It's actually Janecek, yeah.
Ah.
Yeah. But a long time ago, you just get tired of corrected. So
we like the beer.
Janecek's close enough.
We like the beer.
Yeah.
Get a hold of John. If he can help you, he will. Get a hold of us. We'll do the same thing if you'll listen. Thanks for watching the podcast today. We'll talk to you next time. Bye.